Maybe being alone on the road will finally teach you some humility, my mom said, lips curled in that familiar smile. My sister laughed softly from the passenger seat. She always needs drama to feel important. They drove away before the dust settled. For a few seconds I didn't move. The highway stretched endlessly in both directions, heat rising off the asphalt like a warning. My phone had no signal. My purse was still in my sister's car. 250 kilometers from my apartment. From my life. From everything I thought was stable. That was when it hit me, not panic first but clarity. The kind that slices clean instead of screaming. Hi everyone. My name is Maribel Stone. And this is the story of how my own mother abandoned me on a highway, to make me reflect. After my golden sister kissed my husband and blamed me for it. They said it was tough love. They said I was emotional. They said I needed time to think about how I provoked the situation. What they meant was, know your place. The kiss hadn't been accidental. I saw it. Her hand on his chest. His hesitation that came a second too late. When I confronted them, my sister cried. My husband went silent. And my mother, my own mother, took their side with surgical calm. You push people away, she told me that morning. Maybe if you were softer, men wouldn't look elsewhere. The drive was supposed to be cooling off time. A stop. Pause. A lesson. Instead she pulled over without warning. Threw my suitcase onto the gravel like it was garbage. Told me to walk until I found perspective. Then she hugged my sister before getting back into the car. I stood there as the sound of their engine disappeared, my legs shaking. Not from fear but from something deeper. Betrayal doesn't always explode. Sometimes it leaves quietly, confident you'll break without it. The sun burned my skin as trucks rushed past. No one stopped. I tasted metal in my mouth, breathing dust and disbelief. I replayed my mother's voice over and over, searching for a crack. Something that sounded like regret. There was none. That was the moment I understood something terrifying and freeing at the same time. They didn't expect me to survive this. They expected tears. Calls. Apologies. They expected me to crawl back small. But as I picked up my suitcase and started walking, step by step, blister by blister, I felt something shift inside me. Not rage. Not grief. Resolve. And with every mile between me and that road, a quiet truth followed me like a shadow. They hadn't abandoned me to teach me a lesson. They had abandoned me because they thought I was already broken. They were wrong. I kept walking until the road curved and my legs began to tremble. Not from exhaustion but from the weight of what had just happened. Every step echoed with my mother's voice, my sister's laugh, my husband's silence. Silence is louder than shouting when it's chosen. A rusted bus stop appeared like a mirage. No bench. No shade. Just a faded sign and cigarette butts crushed into the dirt. I dropped my suitcase and sat on it, the heat soaking through the fabric of my dress, into my skin, into my bones. That was when my phone finally buzzed. One message. From my husband. Your mom thinks you overreacted. Please come back so we can talk. Not are you safe? Not where are you? Not I'm sorry. I stared at the screen until it went dark again. I thought about all the times I had swallowed words to keep peace. All the dinners where my sister sat too close to him and my mother pretended not to notice. All the jokes about how I was too much and too sensitive, while my sister was praised for being effortless, magnetic, golden. Golden children are never held accountable. Scapegoats are never believed. A bus finally came, late, rattling, smelling of sweat and fuel. I paid with the last cash in my pocket and took a seat by the window. As the city faded behind us, I pressed my forehead to the glass and let myself feel it all at once. The grief, the humiliation, the quiet terror of starting from nothing. But beneath it, something steadier was forming. For the first time, no one was watching me. No one was correcting my tone or fixing my posture or telling me how to be loved better. The road hummed under the tires like a promise. I didn't know where I'd sleep that night. I didn't know how I'd get home. What I knew deep in my chest was this. If I went back now, they would finish what they started. They would shrink me until I disappeared. So I turned my phone off. And somewhere between the bus stop and the edge of the city, I made a decision that would change everything. I wasn't going back to be forgiven. I was moving forward to become unreachable. The bus dropped me at a terminal just after sunset. Neon lights flickered overhead, buzzing like tired insects. I dragged my suitcase through the crowd, every face a stranger, Every voice a reminder that the world kept moving even when your life split open. I found a cheap motel 2 blocks away. Peeling paint. A buzzing light. A bed that smelled faintly of bleach and old stories. I locked the door, leaned my back against it and slid down until I was sitting on the floor. That was when my hands started shaking. Not before. Not on the road. Not on the bus. No. I pressed my fists into my thighs and breathed through it, slow and controlled, the way I'd learned to do after years of being told my emotions were inconvenient. My reflection stared back at me from the cracked mirror. Dust in my hair, eyes too sharp for someone who'd just been abandoned. I looked awake. I checked my phone once before placing it face down on the table. Missed calls. My mother. My sister. My husband, 5 times in a row. No messages this time. Just pressure. Just expectation. They were realizing something was wrong. Not because they missed me but because I wasn't responding the way I was supposed to. Silence was my role but only when it benefited them. I lay on the bed fully dressed, staring at the ceiling as memories replayed themselves without permission. My sister's lips brushing my husband's cheek, his hand hesitating on her waist. My mother stepping between us like a referee who'd already chosen a winner. "You're tearing the family apart," she'd said. "Families like ours don't tear. They consume." I opened my suitcase and pulled out the one thing I'd packed without thinking. A folder of documents. My certifications. Old resumes. Proof that before I became their problem I had been competent. Capable. Whole. I spread them across the bed like evidence in a quiet trial. That night I didn't cry for what I lost. I cried for how long I'd been convinced I deserved it. And as sleep finally took me, one thought settled in with terrifying calm. They believed abandoning me would teach me obedience. Instead it taught me something far more dangerous. How to live without asking for permission. Morning came without mercy. Thin light cut through the torn curtain and landed straight on my face like an interrogation lamp. For a moment I forgot where I was. Then my body remembered before my mind did. Tight chest, clenched jaw, that low hum of anger I'd been taught to bury. I sat up and checked my phone. A voicemail from my mother. I let it play. "Enough of this," she said, calm and clipped. "You've made your point. Your sister feels terrible, your husband is confused, and you're embarrassing the family. Come home. We'll talk when you're ready to be reasonable. No apology. No concern about the highway. Just correction." Another message followed. This one from my sister. "I didn't mean it to happen like that. You know how men are. Don't punish everyone because you're hurt." That was when something inside me finally snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically. It was quieter than that. Like a thread pulled too tight for too long finally giving way. I got dressed slowly. Intentionally. As if each movement was a statement. I checked out of the motel, walked into a cafe across the street, and ordered coffee I couldn't really afford. While it brewed, I opened my laptop. The one thing I'd insisted on bringing despite my mother calling it unnecessary. I started applying for jobs. Not the ones I'd settled for before. The ones I'd talked myself out of. Each click felt like reclaiming oxygen. Each application reminded me that my life had existed before their narrative, and could exist again without it. By noon my husband texted. "Please answer. Your mom is worried. We can fix this if you stop running." Running. I looked around the cafe. People typing, laughing, living. No one knew me here. No one expected me to shrink. For the first time I understood the truth they never wanted me to see. I wasn't running from my family. I was walking away from a cage they called love. And somewhere deep inside a question surfaced. Steady, undeniable. What would happen if I never went back at all? The question followed me all day. What would happen if I never went back? It echoed while I sat in the cafe long after my cup was empty. It walked beside me as I crossed the street to a public library, the air cool and hushed inside, smelling of paper and quiet ambition. I claimed a desk near a window and spread my documents out again. Degrees, certifications, proof that I had once dreamed without permission. By evening I had 3 interview requests. Not promises, but openings. My phone buzzed again. This time my husband didn't bother pretending. "You're being dramatic." My sister apologized. "Mom says you owe everyone an explanation." I pictured my mother's kitchen. How my sister always sat at the head of the table. How my husband's chair had slowly drifted closer to hers over the years. How I was praised for being understanding while everyone else was praised for being themselves. I typed a response. Deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that too. Instead, I did something I'd never done before. I blocked them. All of them. The silence afterward was physical. My ears rang. My heart pounded. It felt reckless, like stepping off a ledge without knowing if there was ground below. That night, I found a short-term room online. Small. Bare. I lay on the mattress staring at the unfamiliar ceiling, listening to a neighbor's muffled TV through the wall, and realized something startling. No one could take this space from me. I cried then, not in bursts but in slow, steady waves. Grief for the marriage I thought I had. Grief for the mother I kept hoping would choose me. Grief for the sister I'd been competing with since childhood without ever agreeing to the race. But beneath the grief was relief. Because control only works when you keep reaching for approval. And for the first time I wasn't reaching. As sleep crept in, my phone lit up once more. Unknown number. A message from my mother's friend. Your mom says you'll calm down and come home by the weekend. I turned the phone face down. They still thought this was a phase. They didn't know yet that I was already becoming someone they could no longer summon with guilt. And that realization, quiet, irreversible, was the beginning of their fear. The interview was on a Tuesday morning. I wore the same navy blazer I'd used years ago, back when I still believed my success had to be modest so no one felt threatened. In the bathroom mirror I practiced my voice, steady, clear, unapologetic. Not the softened version I used at family dinners. The real one. When I walked into that office, something strange happened. No one interrupted me. No one corrected my tone. No one told me I was too much. They listened. I talked about my experience, my resilience, the way I handled pressure. I didn't mention the highway. I didn't mention my family. But every word I spoke was shaped by that road. By the moment I learned how quickly love can turn into leverage. I got the job offer the same afternoon. Not a miracle. Not luck. Recognition. I sat on the edge of my bed holding my phone, rereading the email until the letters blurred. A laugh escaped me, short, almost disbelieving. 2 weeks ago I'd been standing on burning asphalt with nothing but a suitcase and a choice. Now I had an address. A future that didn't ask for permission. That was when the messages started again. New numbers. Relatives I barely spoke to. Your mom is heartbroken. Your sister is struggling. Your husband doesn't understand why you're doing this. I understood perfectly. Control feels like love when you've been trained to obey. That night I finally listened to one voicemail from my husband. His voice cracked. I never thought you'd actually leave. I thought you'd cool off. Come back. Like always. Like always. I deleted the message. Because for the first time, their confusion was not my responsibility. I started furnishing my small apartment slowly. One plant. One lamp. One decision at a time. Each object was chosen by me for me. No commentary. No approval required. As I lay in bed that night, a realization settled in, heavy, undeniable. They didn't lose control of me on that highway. They lost it the moment I stopped explaining myself. And somewhere far away, I knew they were beginning to understand something terrifying. I wasn't coming back to be fixed. I was moving forward to be free. The silence didn't last. It never does when people realize they've truly lost access to you. 3 weeks into my new job, my manager called me into her office. Not with concern but curiosity. Just a heads up, she said gently. Someone's been calling the front desk asking for you. Says their family. My stomach didn't drop. It steadied. That night I found an envelope taped to my apartment door. No return address. My mother's handwriting, sharp, familiar, impossible to mistake. Inside was a letter. No greeting. No warmth. You've always been stubborn. We're worried about your mental state. Your sister has forgiven you. Your husband is willing to move past this. But you need to stop humiliating us by acting like a victim. Families don't abandon each other. I read it twice. Then a third time. Families don't abandon each other. Thought of the highway. The gravel cutting into my palms. The way the car disappeared without looking back. That was abandonment. This was revision. For the first time I didn't feel anger. I felt something colder. Cleaner. I realized they weren't reaching out to reconcile. They were reaching out to reclaim. To pull me back into the role that kept their version of peace intact. And suddenly I saw the pattern clearly. Every apology with conditions, every concern that sounded like control, Every attempt to diagnose my pain instead of owning theirs. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in a drawer. Not as a wound, as proof. The next morning I did something that felt final. I filed for divorce. No announcement. No confrontation. Just a signature and a quiet breath as the clerk stamped the papers. Walking out of that building, sunlight on my face, I felt lighter. Not because it didn't hurt, but because the hurt finally had an end. That evening my phone buzzed once more. A single text from my sister. "You really think you're better than us now?" I looked around my apartment. The calm, the order, the life built without fear. Then I typed the only honest answer I'd ever given her. "Oh, I'm just no longer beneath you." I set the phone down. And for the first time since that road, I slept without dreaming of going back. The divorce finalized quietly. No courtroom drama. No raised voices. Just a stamped document and a chapter closed with ink instead of blood. I walked out alone, heels echoing against marble floors, and felt something settle inside me. Final, immovable. They tried one last time. My mother showed up at my workplace. Not crying. Not angry. Controlled. Polished. She asked the receptionist for me like she still had the right. When I refused to come down, she sent a message through a cousin. "You think you've won, but you'll regret turning your back on your family." I smiled when I read it. Because winning had never been the point. I thought of the woman on that highway, sunburned, shaking, abandoned with a suitcase and a choice. She didn't know how strong she was yet. She just knew she couldn't go back. I sent one final message. Not an explanation. Not an argument. A family that needs control to survive is not a family. Don't contact me again. Then I blocked the last remaining number. Weeks passed. Then months. My life grew quieter. Fuller. I earned promotions. Made friends who didn't need me small to feel secure. I learned what peace sounds like when it's real. No tension under the laughter, no fear beneath the love. One evening, as I watered the plant by my window, I realized something simple and devastating. They hadn't lost me because I was rebellious. They lost me because I stopped begging. I was never hard to love. I was just hard to control. And somewhere out there, my mother still tells the story her way. My sister still plays the golden child. My ex still pretends he was confused, not complicit. But none of that reaches me anymore. Because I rebuilt my life without their permission. As a woman they could never strand again. Never silence again. Never control again.